Hello and welcome to Campaign Comrades, your favorite leftist gaming channel. I am your host, Ben, and with me as always are my co-hosts.
Matt.
What up? It's Andrew.
How we doing, folks? It's been we're coming off an off week here, so we're playing a little bit of catch up here, but we're getting back in the groove. I know Matt is still just riding high off of some
juice.
Yeah, he's juiced up. He's ready to go. So hit us with it. What's your heated gaming moment from the past week? If anybody who caught the streams, they could see they could
I was
see
gonna say that's
just like the heat waves just coming off Matt's head.
I was gonna say you guys as viewers in and out probably have a better perspective on some of the tension that I was going through there on the Sunday stream, having me go for 4 hours in general. Like, I never go that long. That was probably a mistake on my part. I think that only bred more hatred.
It was the sunk cost thing, but it's just like Melania, Blade of Nicola, was just, she had your number, man.
I mean, I also kept looking down and seeing that we had like decent engagement, right. So I was like, I can't just cut this off. I might as well
I'm getting mad, and the madness is bringing in viewers. So just got to keep feeding the cycle. That's the perils of the content brain, though. Sacrificing your own mental health.
Like you did the Souls thing and just all right, last run, and then proceeded to play for like another 30 minutes at a minimum.
Well, you see, when you say last run and then it doesn't go as you expect, you have to do another one.
Just keep banging your head against the wall. Something's going to change. Something different is going to happen. I swear.
I do give credit to the 4 hour frustration, because that was definitely it bred the right amount of contempt for the boss fight that I built the perfect build to destroy her. I catered everything to just doing so much damage to her that she would feel my pain. And no more waterfowl dance shall end my stream.
Yeah. So for any of those interested out there, what was the final strategy that saw you victorious? That led to Melania, Blade of Nicola, seeing her first defeat.
I swapped from my what I shall call semi-cowardly, big slow great sword that throws little sword beams out. Just because the arena doesn't suit itself to the weapon. Like, I kept having either attacks clip into the hill that she would be going up, or have attacks that looked like they would hit her, and like the hitbox didn't match up with the visual. Those were super fun.
Yeah, I was catching that a lot, to be honest. Yeah. I saw that a lot.
I would have gotten so mad, because there's so many instances where like your summon would knock her down, and you send off the arc, and she gets up right as it is about to hit, and just gets those iframes in her benefit. Oh my god, I would have lost my mind.
There was a couple good moments of me telling Tish to stop knocking her down, and Tish just like being the screaming child in the back meme, and continuing to do it anyway. It's like, why can't you just throw your fire attack? Like, that's the only attack I want you to use. But no, I ended up swapping to dual katanas, really embraced the blade. And then I basically just took my talisman setup and swapped everything for damage boost on consecutive attacks, a damage boost on bleed proc, and an increase in dex across the board. And basically just dual wielded these katanas and just got in her face with my mimic, also dual wielding katanas, and just bullied her into a corner while we were just getting damage buffs off of the amount of bleed we were proccing and all of the consecutive attacks with the two katanas back and forth, bullying her into a corner. Now she knows what it feels like.
So even with all like the the rebalancing that's gone through with the various patches, bleed is still super strong. And I'm asking as someone who hasn't played yet also.
Yeah, no, bleed is still incredibly strong. It's one of the craziest glow ups I've seen for a status ailment from a game to a game. Like, bleed is definitely something, and I wish they would. Like, Bloodborne doesn't even have this crazy of bleed, and that's a game that's literally like blood everywhere, blood, born of the blood, made of the blood. Undone by
of
blood.
the best parts though were when you would make it to the second phase and just get clipped by that little bit of the rot flower and just,
yeah.
freak
Oh my
the
God.
fuck out.
Dude. When I was consistently dodging the first hit of the attack and then getting one shot by the second part, which should not one shot, I don't know what I was doing wrong. Like clearly, like something about my rolling, I was getting like the counter hit on my roll where it was like one shotting me with the damage, but I absolutely disagreed.
I could just like see the steam just coming out of your ears.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
It's because like I don't mind getting to the second phase, but if I want to die in the second phase, I want to die to the attacks because I want to actually like learn the phase, not die to the thing that starts it.
Absolutely. Yeah, in that case, I'd rather die in the first phase. You know, just let's move on to the next attempt. Then at this point, just wasting my damn time.
Yeah.
Oh, there was one point the morning that I ended up beating it, that my mimic tier. I don't know if it was just the game flipping me off, or if what was going on with the AI of my mimic tier and her AI. But she did the grab attack like 8 times in a row on him.
Is that the impalement one? I love that move.
Yes. In the entire animation, she's immune to damage, and it heals her for like a quarter of her health because of how much damage it does. And she just was chain doing it over and over again to my mimic tier. And I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to like forfeit this run because you are killing my buddy.
Just immediately,
I can't do anything about it.
That sucks. Dude, your stamina was impressive. I cannot continue to beat my head against the wall in a video game like that for as long as you did. I would have broken a controller. There's just no doubt.
It's almost zen for me in a way, like putting it all like just going in. The only frustrating part, it felt like for a while, was like not having the waterfowl dance in any sort of read on it. Like there were certain points where it definitely looked like she would like go up in the air looking at the summon, and then she would just pivot and come at me. And those were the ones that like, okay, how am I supposed to be?
I have to give props to them for like, you know, the developers for the enemy AI though. You know, it's like it's incredibly hard to read, which, you know, is obviously frustrating in those circumstances, but like, you know, it's some next level gameplay.
I will stand by my statement that she's definitely a Sekiro boss in a Dark Souls game. But I'm cool with that. Like I said it on stream yesterday. Sekiro is a cool game to me. I like Sekiro. Yeah. Like, I can definitely see the opportunities there for like me as Wolf to be just parrying the waterfowl dance. Ping, 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 ping.
Interesting.
And then I can hear the stance break as I do all 3 successfully as I like move her to second phase. Oh man.
Hey, Andrew, you're still playing Elden Ring too. How's your progression been moving?
Yeah, I'm making slow but steady progress. That's kind of my view of this game. It's just so massive and so much time you can put into it. But I finally am at the mountaintops of the giants, so I'm kind of like
you say I helped guide you with a guiding hand through the capital, so that you didn't.
That's my sage wisdom for Elden Ring, and I think roughly like I'm now in the final third ish of the game.
Yes,
you could say.
Mountaintop, Farum Azula, capital again, end of game.
So
if that's like the progression things you need.
But I'm getting rocked now that I'm in the next like area again.
Mountaintop sucks,
dude. Oh my god, I thought Caelid was bad. Caelid doesn't seem as bad anymore. So I'm gonna go do some exploring.
That again is like that's great design. That's great progressive design. Like it keeps challenging your and reevaluating your expectations of the game. That's very impressive from a design perspective.
No, it's
one of those things that once you get to mountaintop, you can go back to areas you thought were difficult that maybe you're like, I'll go back to these later, and they're so much easier now.
Yeah.
Because like enemies that you can still one-shot enemies and stuff like that compared to mountaintop where it's like you hit an enemy and they don't flinch and they're like, hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
That the first guy I hit and like it did like a quarter of his damage bar and I was like, oh.
You have fun in the Zamora ruins.
This feels new again. But yeah, no, I was literally last time I was playing with Matt, I beat 2 bosses in that stream, and
Beat more than 2.
yeah, I beat a couple in that stream, and I was ending.
Beat 4,
yeah,
my friend. Give yourself
you're
credit,
right.
King.
It was 4. Thank you. I am a king.
So we support each other here at Campaign Comrades.
But like I did wrap that stream feeling like, damn, I think I'm finally at that point where I'm a little OP'd. And as soon as I got to the mountaintop,
check yourself, friend.
Yep, the game was like, ha, you thought.
You fool, you absolute imbecile.
Yeah. Wait until you when you get to consecrated snowfields. So have you fought any of the death birds, the death right birds, the nighttime boss?
No, not in this area.
I saw you fight some big ugly birds.
But you fought them other areas.
Yeah, I fought them in other areas.
I guess that was a dragon.
It's D. They're just D with a stick. There's one in the consecrated snowfields in the top left. So would that be northwest?
Yep.
Northwestern corner. He's a fucking bastard. Like, just a fucking really hard fight.
Yeah, those guys
I haven't beaten him yet.
Aren't easy to begin with.
No, they move weird. Mm-hmm. Their movements are funky. They move like D when she dances.
It's just a great game. So much continued fun.
I'm sad that I'm wrapping up soon.
You've been stretching it out so long,
First
man.
Playthrough.
You've been stretching it out like as long as you possibly can, and you still haven't even gotten to New Game Plus yet. Which we know you're.
Well, that's the one. Like I can do that on this. I can do that on the side.
You're a pain pig, and you're gonna take it as far as you possibly can.
Yeah. It's one of those. I can do New Game Plus on the side, because that's like, once I've done everything for a first playthrough, New Game Plus runs are basically like, who do I want to fight? What do I like want to do? Like any side quests I missed, and then like run to the boss.
Fair enough. I personally am still I'm too afraid. I'm too much of a coward to play Elden Ring yet. Mainly it's the time. It's the time commitment.
Oh no, it's gonna take some
a minimum 100 hours.
I don't know if you've watched if you watched the short little video I sent yesterday.
I did. It was very interesting.
Yeah. There's just some like little subtle things like that are very helpful, that just help bring you along as the game progresses.
Yeah, no, this is another, just for those at home, just an interesting little video on the little kind of tips and tricks that the developers use to both make the development process easier on themselves in terms of like reusing assets, but then how that also is
how they use the reused assets to create familiarity,
right, to both build expectation and guide a player to how they learn, but then also to then play with those expectations to keep things still fresh. So like the best one was like, you go to a ruin, you learn that you need to go find the underground chamber, and then you find one that doesn't have the staircase down, so you got to find that with the illusory wall and all that.
Look for the hidden
and how that can still provide a satisfying experience for a player, because it's proof that what they've learned is still useful, and that they're still that they're grappling with the game in a meaningful way.
Yeah, that's shout out to Zully the Witch. That's a really cool channel that does some cool stuff about these games. Absolutely. Looking through the source code and whatnot.
But speaking of my cowardice in my fear of commitment in terms of these games, I've been largely playing Outer Worlds on Game Pass, which will nicely segue us to our first topic of the week. Are you a board member?
Yeah,
if you're with the board, you have to tell me. There's been some game discourse today. But so I was saying on stream yesterday as I was playing it that whoever said that it was a short RPG is a liar, and I kind of have to like take it back a little bit. I was looking just so people say, oh, you shouldn't do this. So I'm not actually looking at story details or anything or walkthroughs for the actual quest, but like looking at what the main quest line is for the game to see like how, just to gauge how far I am. And it looks like I, wasn't reading it correctly, that like there's a huge chunk in the middle of this list that is it is a quest line that will get you to the end state or to the end game if you make a certain choice that I didn't make. I've made the opposite choice because I'm not a corporate hack. Because basically the side is if you side with the board, it takes you down this like longer quest line. Whereas so it's basically it cut out like over a third of what was in the list for the main quest line, and I've got maybe like 4 main quests left to go. So
that's kind of like Sekiro gives you the option for the bad ending.
Well, it's cool.
With like
it's cool because that makes it totally obvious that you can have multiple playthroughs with vastly different outcomes. And I'm always a fan of that. I always feel like that's bullshit that most people's like, oh yeah, you can like, play through a game, differently. And the experience is largely different. And from this case, the story would be definitely drastically different. So I've been appreciating that, but like, I've been playing that on Game Pass. Which has largely for me been an outlet to try indie games with little, which Outer Worlds is not one of those, but like indie games that I can try with little to no risk on my part of playing and not liking them. That's luckily only happened a handful of times. Most of the ones I've tried I've enjoyed quite thoroughly. But yeah, so if we're all ready, let's move into it, because Game Pass again has been part of the quote unquote discourse this past week or two. I don't know if you guys saw the origins of it, but it started with a relatively innocuous tweet from Washington Post games journalist Gene Park. Shout out! I'm a big fan of his work, and he is definitely a positive voice, and he made some great points in this tweet. It was just like saying that he is finally come to understand that he is getting little to no value out of Game Pass anymore. So he always said, I'm unsubbing for now. It wasn't like fuck Game Pass, I'm done with it, like Microsoft and Xbox can eat my shit. It was just like, it's not worth it for me right now.
I've heard very similar sentiments from some of the podcasts that I listen to.
They make a good
saying
point.
That they're unsubbing from Game Pass for now until there's another like reason to subscribe.
No less than 20 minutes ago, I canceled my subscription, and I've been meaning to for like about a couple months, but I've just been too lazy. But like,
they already got you then, man.
For me isn't in there.
Yeah,
they did. They got me for a couple months.
I have actively been playing games through Game Pass, definitely more I'd say than anyone else probably here in the group. But I still actually, like, as I was like looking through the discourse here, I was like thinking, like trying to do some like math in my head, and it's like, you know what, I'm probably also not meeting the value of what was advertised.
You also have to consider the fact that some of these games you can get on like Steam sale for really cheap.
Right. And so that's
I got Outer Worlds on Steam sale for like $8.
That's the main argument here. It's like and people like wrongly criticized Gene Park for saying his breakdown was that via the bit that there are no major AAA releases, and the whole thing was saying that there's going to be a major first party release every 3 months or whatever, and obviously that's been false. But like,
yes,
even if you're going by the library, not necessarily new stuff, the math breaks down to you have to play a AAA game that will assume it costs $60. You need to basically play one even though now it's 70. Yeah, so you need to play one like every 4 months in order for and this is of course for Ultimate. This is for the Ultimate subscription. You need to pay one. You need to play one every 4 months for the value to be worth it. And he's like, for me, it's just clear it's not there. Like for him, like an avid gamer and a journalist who does this for a living, it's like the backlog is not as big a deal. It is about the new stuff, and there isn't new stuff there. So what's the point? So people were all getting on his shit, including the official Game Pass Twitter account. Said, replied with some snarky ass shit like, tell me you don't play indie games without telling me you don't play indie games. Yeah, type shit. And like, that is such a bad faith argument, because indie games are so much less expensive to begin with. The value proposition goes up like fourfold or like threefold at that point. You'd have to play 12 indie games a year in order for it to actually make sense. And for me, who's playing indie games, I'm not playing that much. I'm not playing that many.
The thing that annoys me about it is the way it makes you play games. Is it encourages you to like rush through a game so you can get to another one to make sure you're maintaining that value. So if you want to like take your time through a game, it's like actively punishing you on like the value of the money scale.
That's a good point.
Versus if you just buy the game and want to take your time with the game, the value for the money scale gets better. Like there's the
that is a good point about the Game Pass model. The other thing I wanted to say about the indie stuff is that there's no way those indie studios have negotiated better splits with Microsoft than like these other larger studios. So like,
absolutely.
Sure,
so we're talking about
where
from
the value is to the
consumer,
user, but like, right. So, but like, we're still like, these developers are getting screwed. So to act like we should all be like cheering this on as like this indie game hub is disingenuous to kind of the people making them, in my opinion.
Very true. That is part of the discourse that, of course, or that's part that is, of course, not been part of the discussion because, again, we are all, consumerist pigs who, just need the slop, and it's never no indication given or no concern given to, the workers or those who are creating these things as well. But yeah, absolutely. No, we've seen so many reports that that these companies are making nothing. Their quote unquote sales are going up. Their sales figures are higher. They're reaching more audience through Game Pass. Sure, that's good, but like they're not actually getting money from it. So many have yet to even break even on this case. But so that was like, there's been a whole discourse, of course, that the Xbots have been coming out and say like, oh, you're not playing, so that's not where the value in Game Pass is.
I think I said this last episode, but like they're so defensive, Absolutely. Man. Like they get so defensive about this stuff.
They really do.
Like I don't want to like turn it into meme culture, but like the Xbots are like the sad soy boy, and then the chat is Nintendo fans. They're just like, this game runs at 30 frames and it's fine.
Couldn't be me. But but then there was a cascade of people being like, yeah, you're right, the value's not there, I'm unsubbing too, and it's always been, I'm not writing it off completely. It's like they gotta they gotta put their the content where say where their mouth is, or else I'm not I'm not gonna, it doesn't make sense. I'm throwing money away for a service I'm not using, or at best using a little bit. And again, like Gene Park responded to the criticism of, you're not playing indie games. He's like, I tried a shit ton of them. I didn't, this was his personally, like, I didn't like them. The only one he played was Trek to Yomi, and he was like, it's mid at best. And it
accurate.
No, and personally, I am definitely a AAA gamer. Like I don't really delve much into the indie space just because it's just not doesn't usually fit what I prefer. But
we've discussed this before, where how
interesting
the modern indie landscape is very difficult to navigate because access to game development is easier than ever before for people. So you have to sort through a lot of slop to find the diamonds, where a lot of the games that, like, when you think of indie game that you recommend to a friend, like the Undertales, the Stardew Valleys, the Terrarias, the Celestes, these types of games, they're not really indie games anymore. Like Shovel Knight, like all these games, they're they've like elevated in status above that small team.
It's like if an indie studio has one success, they are like something that's actually successful, they are no longer an indie studio. They get enough funding, enough support that they are elevated in status in that way. But it is definitely, again, something that I have definitely gotten a value, quote unquote, from Game Pass for my indie experience, for playing
that's the thing with
and Citizen Sleeper and Weird West and all that kind of stuff, is things that I would have never tried out if I had to necessarily pay money for them, because again, it was always like, oh man, there's such a risk that I'm not going to like this, and I just don't want to, piss this money away. I mean, but granted, I still probably am pissing the money away, because like I'm not playing enough. Still not playing enough that like
well, that's
it's the illusion that I'm getting these games for free.
Yes, you hear it a lot when people describe Game Pass. They say it's free on Game Pass.
Granted, I'm playing the PC version, which is considerably less than Ultimate. I only need to play like 2 AAA games to it's 120 for me a year. So it's that's the one thing Game Pass they only do monthly, so that's how they get you.
Game Pass is a good deal initially because it's like the all-you-can-eat buffet. You have all these options, all these choices. But like a year or two into the all-you-can-eat buffet, you've tasted, the questionable pudding cups. You've had the crab legs that have been sitting out on the steamer for who knows how long. Like you've sampled everything, and you only go back now for like the couple things you like, and like eventually the all-you-can-eat buffet model becomes less desirable because you just look at it and you're like, okay, there's like 80% of this is vaporware I don't care about, or like stuff that I've already played. Like the only thing I'm now waiting for is the new releases that come day one, and how long is that going to continue to happen is the real question for all of this before that model gets changed.
And I would say like this is definitely a risk of the streaming model is like if you eventually stop creating enough content where people want to pay, they're gonna only subscribe when big things come out. Like that's kind of the risk you run is like you have these fluctuations.
Microsoft loves to tout that number. They love the first weekend engagement.
100%.
Like that's one of the big numbers they like to tout whenever they do the first the day and date.
All right. I think that's launch. A good enough transition to what I sent this to the group to you guys in the group chat yesterday, and I have something to read for you here that is just, oh my God, so good. So it's just so juicy. There's so it's coming. This is like the larger context that this is happening in. That there's been a huge swell of churn for Game Pass. They're losing subscribers. People are unsubbing for all the reasons that we're just describing. So then I wake up yesterday morning, looking through my email, and what do I find? But from Microsoft Xbox Research. You've been randomly selected to take part in a survey regarding Game Pass. And I'm like, I wonder why. But long story short, as we'll get to quickly, I didn't actually take the survey because on page 1, after you check the box on yes, you can collect my information, the next bit says confidentiality agreement. And I can read this because I said no to the confidentiality agreement. I took a screenshot. It said, and it'll get here, you cannot take screenshots. I took the screenshot and then said no. So like, again, I'm totally above board here. Like I am not breaking. I did not sign anything. I did not. I'm not breaking any agreements unlawful. Granted, it would be nice if our legal scholar was here to confirm that, but maybe wading into some potentially gray waters here. But I'm doing it anyway.
All you have to do, I'm a Redditor. You say I am not a lawyer, and then you give legal.
Boom, you're good. You're covered. Your bases are covered. Okay, so I'm going to read to you the wording of the confidentiality agreement, which is at the end, mostly. Actually, it looks like part of it kind of got cut off. But it's the part that's important is here. So confidentiality agreement. Reads below. The information you received during the course of the survey is proprietary and confidential information to Microsoft, and you agree to take all necessary steps to preserve that confidentiality. As part of your obligation to preserve the confidentiality of the information, you agree not to, 1, disclose the existence of the survey. That alone right there, it was just like I had to put it down. I had to put it to be like, yes, I can neither confirm nor deny that there was in fact a survey.
Like awesome. This survey does not exist.
Yeah, I'm in my tier 1 operator arc here. Can neither affirm nor deny the the operations that are ongoing.
This is not the survey you were looking for.
So that I cannot say that the survey existed. So if I had said yes, I'd already be in violation. Just not even remarking on the content, which again I cannot now because I said no and it immediately booted me out. But so cannot disclose the existence of the survey.
Right. Destroyed the email.
Disclose or provide any information you receive in connection with the survey to any third party other than has been specifically permitted herein, in any manner, including but not limited to capturing and or posting survey screenshots, videos, or opinions about the survey, or any other information related to the product on any websites or blogs. Then the next bit is fine. It's like, that's standard pablum. It's like, you won't be held liable so long as somebody
How many
else
underpaid
made
interns do you think Microsoft has searching the internet for screenshots of their survey?
Well, man, I was like, okay, I got the email. I'm like, okay, like I knew we were going to talk about the Game Pass thing this week, so I'm like, this is too obvious. They're obviously, they're sweating right now. That's absolutely why they've sent this to me. Because they have collected enough of my data to see that I am playing somewhat regularly. And they're like, I saw that and I'm like, again, I've been raised well enough to know not to sign away my life like that. So it was like,
nah, man, just click agree and go.
I had to take a record of it just so I could share it here on the podcast with all you fine folks. Like, so
because once you said no, the email disintegrated like a
exactly.
Mission Impossible. This message will self-destruct in 5.
Like a little bomb pixel art shows up on the screen and blows up and the email just disappears.
But oh my god, I was just I could not like I'm like, am I still sleeping? Is this still a dream? Like, am I hallucinating this? Like, it was just, it's too good.
Like Phil Spencer was like kicked back in his office chair, his big leather executive suite, pinky up. Like, yes, indeed.
Who do you think said yes to that?
Survey.
Who do you think said yes to those things and then proceeded to take the 15-minute survey?
People who didn't read it.
Yeah,
but you have to.
There's a significant portion of people who just click.
But like, I have to give it some credit in the way that it's organized. It's like a segment. You have to click yes, then it goes down. You have to like scroll enough, and confidentiality agreement was in big bold letters. It wasn't that, it wasn't necessarily trying to be tricky. But like, so I mean, so again, yeah, maybe I would have gone past that quickly, but if I had not, again, had to scroll beyond to see that, in, again, big bold text confidentiality, I'm like, I wonder what they're afraid of.
I bet you there's going to be someone who's defending this. Like, well, obviously they're going to be telling you about some really cool confidential new game that's going to be only Game Pass exclusive, along with the new streaming stick.
That's the thing. It's like the contents of it are definitely like very boring. I'm sure there's nothing in that survey that is all that like enlightening or
probably gonna be like, how often do you play? How long do you play when you play? How many different games have you played since you like
forbidden fruit that I really want to know?
Exactly. It's like it made me want to see it even more. But again, it's like, I'm not that stupid.
Andrew's gonna like email Xbox, be like, hey, can I have a survey about Xbox Game Pass? They're gonna be like, what? Why is this guy asking for his database one?
So I saw the first part was like, yeah, you have to share your data. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't love that, but again, it's like they're gonna get my data no matter what. So again, I'm doing it for the content.
Because they run the OS your computer has.
Like I'm sacrificing my own personal security for the sake of you fine listeners at home. But then once it was like, yeah, you cannot even say that this thing exists, I was like, no, that's too good for content. I gotta say no.
We'll kill you if you ever talk about this survey.
Yeah, you know what the funny part is? Like, Microsoft, I could see like executing this and just like purely like data stealing. If Nintendo sent me a survey, and was like, if you talk about this survey, they would send out like a hit squad that would take you out. Like you'd be taken down with like a Star Fox pistol.
You say they're just going to repel through your windows, and do a Falcon punch, just kill you instantly.
I didn't know that was real. It's been real this whole time.
So that has been the discourse of late. Game Pass has been who knows where it's going to go, folks. People are saying it's the future of gaming, but when they got to be couched in that level of secrecy, can't be looking too good internally, I gotta say.
I mean, again, if it's the future of gaming, I'd rather it be someone who's not Microsoft doing it.
Absolutely.
I'd rather our friends at Nintendo be doing my gaming subscription for my life, because Nintendo is my friend.
All right, but speaking of like funny, like absolutely like ridiculous, funny dystopian shit that video game companies have been doing, this is like one of the older bit of news. This like dropped, I think, the day after our last recording. So this is now a couple weeks old at this point. But it's part of, and we'll say that it's been an up and down couple of weeks for our long-term foes, Activision. Again, we hate to have to. I guess I'll say we both hate and now love to have to be talking about Activision so much. I guess let's start off with the good news that Raven QA has successfully conducted their union vote under continued harassment and pressure from management, with a impressive 19-3 in favor of the union. They are moving forward with all speed to conduct their union management.
There's been some funky messaging about that. I've heard some stuff around the lines of like, do you really want 19 employees ruining it for the rest of you?
That's the Activision company line. Is we think that 19 employees shouldn't decide something so important for an entire studio. And it's just like, for those at home, I'm giving two middle fingers to the camera.
Yeah, that just sounds threatening.
No, it is threatening.
Like, I know obviously
it is threatening,
intent, but like it's definitely like
it's absolutely threatening. And
it's like the guy standing behind you with a baseball bat, like threatening to kneecap
and the National Labor Relations Board agrees with you and is moving forward with their investigation into Activision for all their illegal union busting tactics, which, from what I've read, is generally encouraging because the NLRB is. In the sense, it is a relatively conservative institution in how it acts, when it chooses to act, it doesn't act frivolously.
Yeah,
and that is a purely defensive nature because of the weak state of labor law in this country. That they only move when they think they can get something, when they can actually do something. So
yeah, when they think they got a real case. Yeah. I mean, I do love the fact that Microsoft was like, yeah, we'll support the union. Like Matt said in the group chat, we'll follow the law.
Follow the law.
I mean, this was at least,
I guess, just the bare minimum.
I mean, the bare minimum was what they've done in the past, which was literally, I think, basically that towing that line is like, we will comply with all local and federal labor laws, which is basically not a thing. But which is
basically just them going, I plead the fifth.
The statement that you're referencing, Andrew, Phil Spencer goes back to his original thing. It's like, oh, I know very little about unions. I'm a fucking moron. I'm an absolute dullard who doesn't know. I don't know what a union is. What's that? But apparently he's been educated on what unions are.
What's a union?
But
Mr. Phillip, a union is when communism.
Exactly. This is, I think you can reasonably say this is much firmer support, where they say, we absolutely support employees' right to organize and form unions. We think it is a rights of employees and something that can be part of a relationship between a company and people who work at the company. So, that's encouraging. That's good. I don't like to heap praise on any corporation and any CEO, but and again, that's just words for now. So let's see how the contract negotiations go. But that's the positive thing with Activision this week. But so this was the thing I got a little distracted because, again, I wanted to make sure we got the good news out. But again, this dropped the day after our last recording, and it's too bad that we couldn't have talked about it then. But the absolutely insane algorithmic diversity tool that was implemented and developed by the King portion of Activision Blizzard King in conjunction with
the Candy Crush people,
the MIT Gaming Lab, which I did confirm is an offshoot of the MIT Media Lab, which we cannot go anywhere with saying are notorious launderers of Jeffrey Epstein's money. So just working with the absolute best and brightest here. We fucking love to see it. But I got to shout out
listen,
James.
They want to make sure that even pedophiles are fairly represented in games.
Absolutely, that should have been one. Yeah, that should have been one of the sliders. Yeah, it's just how much do you like kids? But yeah, so I gotta give a shout out to James Stephanie Sterling's latest Jimquisition video, where they broke this down so expertly. Just the absolute absurdity of scaling something like inclusivity on like a slider. So like the question is like, what constitutes the most gender identity, the most ethnicity? It's like,
right, exactly.
There's like, that means that there's
what constitutes the most culture. Yeah. Let's not lie.
And so, but like in reality, like, so it's hilarious. That's funny to think of it that way. But then you can get a bit more serious, like about, because people, I think at this point should know the graphic that we're kind of mentioning. It's this kind of like amorphous blob that like, they scatter plot all the different values for their different characters. And you can see
it's your classic attribute spider web.
You can see
how good your my player is.
Right. So, but you can see it in the visual that they sent, that there is a conspicuous circle. It's actually more like a teardrop in the center that's like basically says, oh, that's what that's what they consider the base standard. Like they're telling on themselves. It's like that again. It's like the standard thing. The central piece is white, male, straight, able-bodied. All those various categories. It's like it's clear who they are operating as the baseline. That is the norm of all these things, and everything outside is some weird wild thing that we just are showing that we're including. And the hilarious bit is that we're doing this to avoid tokenist representation. How is this anything but?
One of the branches was just colored hair, like blue colored hair.
Yeah. How disappointing are you to your grandma?
I do like that. Like they're just, to your point, this baseline just doesn't include no one with whatever the most socioeconomic background is.
Sure.
They're not getting represented, or the most sexual orientation. Like, oh man, this is gotta love it.
It's just too good. It's too sexual good not to bring up.
I mean, that's the sexual orientation is the measure of how many kids you like. What age groups? That's where the most sexual orientation.
That's how MIT is contributing. That's how they're contributing. No, but just I could as soon as I saw that, I could not I was like, of course, absolutely, of course, this is where the Epstein blackmail funds are being shepherded, are being funneled into. We love to see it going to great and powerful things, shaping the future of gaming for all of us. But as I was saying, it's like their whole thing is like, oh, we do this to make sure that we're not doing tokenistic representation. It's like, how is, putting numbers on a scale anything but tokenism, and people are like, what would actually, make for more inclusive games, hire a diverse range of developers. How about that? And they're like, I don't think we considered that, that seems a little far-fetched to me.
Hire
right.
Others?
Like non-white guys?
How would I do
no,
that?
Never.
I did like how they're like, no, this isn't. We're not saying we won't do that.
No, they immediately had to walk it back. It's like, oh no, it's
not us who's out of touch.
This didn't go into making our only black Overwatch character. We didn't use this for that. Just don't tell anybody. Shh.
I did happen to go through just the comments on the Kotaku post, and like one of the top ones, someone posted a picture of Calvin Candy from Django Unchained, and that's a pretty spot on.
Yeah, they're just doing race science. It's just fucking insane.
Yeah, exactly.
If I open his head, he will have the same dimples.
It's just absolutely absolute insanity. But again, we love to see particularly the backlash to it, the Universal having to walk it back. And I just gotta say, it's been a real interesting couple of weeks for game developer PR people. You know, they're having a real one. You know, they're just on it. They're on it for real. Like, yeah. They have, you know, again, whoever signed off on, like, you know, let's publish this, let's put this out there. I hope was like immediately fired, just because, you know, just what an absolute dunce, what an absolute dunderhead, just like, you fool.
Was this your idea? Yeah, get out of here.
Okay, so you know, we've done a lot of ragging on various companies as of late. And again, we
deservedly
absolutely deservedly, we are
never wrong.
And say we've recently, you know, we had plenty of criticism for Sony, and again, one of those PR absolute blowouts was from our last episode with the Jim Ryan comments on abortion. You know, again, what an idiot, what a fucking piece of shit. But you know, I think somebody said yesterday on stream or in the group chat that our next topic, this kind of like cascade of all these like really positive Sony announcements, for the most part positive, have you know, they're definitely trying to get away from that as fast as possible. It's like, no, forget that happened. That was so long ago. Just memory hold that, please. They had some good stuff coming out.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, being an absolute idiot talking about his cats. But I guess
as a man who has cats, I too enjoy my cats, but not when in that nature of discussion.
But so the first bit, again, this dropped like, again, the day or so after our last recording, so it's a little bit, you know, dated on the side, but the PS Plus, the new PS Plus accounts have started to roll out. They've started their rollout in Asia. But you know, before that, the list of, you know, in the growing list of the library of games was first released. We don't necessarily need to go into them right now, because again, it's pretty old news at this point, but I'll just ask, were there any standouts for you guys? Anything that you guys saw? Because I'll just say the initial reactions I saw from some people were not necessarily negative, but not necessarily positive either. They're like, oh, there's nothing new, or like, there's nothing that really grabs me. But for me, as someone who like has kind of like missed out on that kind of a lot of the PS4 generation of games, like I kind of lapsed in my gaming. There's a lot there that I'm definitely going to jump on. But yeah, before I get into that,
I think a lot of the things that I've seen from people are like, this isn't the full catalog yet. So like, we obviously don't know what else is going to be rounding this catalog out. So like, they're still tempering expectation because they want to know what else will be there.
I don't even think it's half.
I think this is a pretty good starting bundle. Like they've definitely showed some, like, again, if you haven't played like Ghost of Tsushima or any of those games yet, like, yeah, like those are good. That's a good value right there. Death Stranding, that's another one that's in there. I think there's it's like the Jack and Daxter collection. Like I bought that on PS4 when that came out. And there's a cool thing they've announced with this, where if you've bought the PSP or the PS1 games before, or some of those classic games before, you just get them into your catalog,
even without
regardless of if you subscribe.
Yeah.
So like, I'm interested to see how many PSP and PS1 games I bought on Vita, because I have a black hole, a lot of my Vita catalog that'll just like appear in my catalog day one when the service drops.
Be a nice little surprise.
I was personally happy. I thought this was a pretty good starting list too. I gotta agree. I was not disappointed. There's a lot of pretty high, even
like
some
I said,
newer stuff.
There'll
the
be
fact
more.
That like, there'll be more, but like even like Guardians of the Galaxy, like I want to play that one. Like that's on the list. There's some good stuff here.
you know, you already mentioned a bunch of them for me, Matt, but it's like, again, I missed Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima, both those, you know, the director's cuts as well. So that's gonna be cool. And
Which is cool because like I have regular Death Stranding. I don't have the director's cut, so now I don't need to buy the director's cut. I have the free upgrade to it essentially.
Yeah, so like those are going to be downloads for me, absolutely. I never played Last of Us either, and it's the remastered version. You know, Returnal's coming as of, you know, some of the newer stuff. You know, maybe it's
Returnal's also coming to PC.
That's, you know, it's still technically a rumor, but yeah,
I know
it's pretty much guaranteed at this point.
That's one that's been kind of known about though for about a year, because like it's a perfect game to go to PC, because PC is where roguelites really get their shine.
But then maybe the announcement was a little bit light on the classic games. The true, you know, be more. The PS1, PSP games, but
I'm sure there's also going to be some licensing issue with some of them, because like games that old have some interesting licensing handshakes that go on with studios that don't exist anymore and stuff like that.
What do you guys make of the inclusion of Ubisoft Plus as part of it? That's what's going to fold in like all the Assassin's Creed games, including Valhalla, which again is like, I like had seen so much negative about it that I was never going to pay for the game, but you know, maybe I'll play a little bit of it because I'll get it with it. So yeah, why not?
I feel like the inclusion of Ubisoft, was it Connect? What is that?
I'm pretty sure it's called Plus. Pretty sure it's Ubisoft Plus.
Ubisoft Plus, whatever it's called. I think it lends more credence to the idea that Sony and Ubisoft might be approaching a partnership in way. Because, you know, Ubisoft has been dangling themselves out there saying, hey, please,
not if Yves Guillaume has anything to say about it. Fuck that French bastard.
Yeah, douchebag. It's like, I'll to your point, I'll probably play a few hours of Valhalla just to see what it's about. But like, I'm not a huge Ubisoft fan at this point.
I've soured so heavily on Ubisoft.
You see, what I've heard about Valhalla is that it's not the first few hours that's hard. It's the it's like the next 40 hours that suck.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, again, there's just the wildness. Like I saw an interesting review. It may have even been a Donkey review, possibly, which, you know, obviously are not the most serious ones, but it had a good point that like they should have just made a fucking Viking game, you know, like there's a huge disconnect there of why it's even an Assassin's Creed.
Doesn't need to be Assassin's Creed,
because it's like, you know, that's not how Vikings fought, and you know, it's like and that's not how the gameplay plays out. You're never actually doing stealth. You're going and raiding a village and calling in a bunch of dudes to come in and, you know, rampage.
What's more stealthy than 100 men pillaging a village with you?
Right. It's like, you know, just make a new IP for God's sake. Like, what the fuck? For Odin's sake. Vikings. Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah. That's a good point.
So yeah, I'm like, I'm kind of like, meh. Again, it's like I wasn't gonna buy these games, so you know, maybe it will actually see me playing a little bit more because I won't feel that committed to it.
Speaking of Odin's sake,
yeah, I guess let's before we go into the God of War stuff, because let's do a little bit up and down here, because we talked a little bit about you know, because I'll just say the God of War stuff,
give them their medicine.
Cool, that's good, we like that. There's, you know, good stuff coming, we'll get to that in a second, but there's the weird bit about the news that's been making the round since the release of PS Plus in Asia, that the classic games are being there's a strong indication at least that they're going to be released in the PAL format rather than the NTSC format, which for those of us who maybe don't quite understand, Matt, do you have a
I actually do
of what those are? I mean, I get the results of PAL is, you know, goes at 50 hertz and 25 frames per second. NTSC is 60 hertz and 30 FPS, and they're kind of region locked, but like, yeah, break it down for us.
Remember back in the day, the CRT television, the box TV?
Ooh, yes.
Classic.
So the way that the box TV worked was your screen was legitimately refreshing, where it was a photon beam scanning across and creating your image. That's the scan line. And due to a standard over in Europe, their CRTs refreshed at 50 hertz. So that was why that standard was created, was to match the European 50 hertz CRT televisions, while in the US we had 60 hertz CRT televisions. So this just ends up being a split in the development there based on the technology limitations of different standards. And that's why now we have the PAL version here when we're getting these classics will be 50 hertz, 25 frames per second versus what would be the other version, which would be 60 hertz, 30 frames per second. And from what I've heard from some people is that the reasoning initially for the PAL variant is that it's supposedly less jittery and that there's some jitter around the 30 frame mark on some of these PS1 games running on these like higher frame rate machines.
Interesting. But yeah, it's like most of the the sourcing comes from, again, it's there it's not unusual. Again, these things are region locked issues, so it's like, oh, okay, it's releasing in a PAL region, so of course it's going to be on PAL. But it's the fact that the games themselves are being credited through Sony Computer Entertainment Europe, which was like exclusively PAL stuff. So that's why people are worried that even in an NTSC region like North America, we're still going to get the PAL version. Which,
and like NSO did this, and then NSO fixed it after launch with a Nintendo Switch Online. So it's one of those things that, like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's something they bring later on where you get to pick.
Well, I still think it's possible because I've seen enough that's like it's not firmly set in stone that rolls out in North America, because it's still essentially from the point of recording a little over 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. Yeah. We'll say 3 weeks.
6/12, right?
I think it's the 15th.
Whatever. I'm pretty sure it's June 15th, but I could be wrong. That is when it rolls out in North America. Maybe it's the 13th. I don't fucking know. But yeah, we're professionals here. We keep those dates firmly. We are the most informed.
But yeah, so that's a little bit up in the air right now. But I know my dumbass who can hardly tell the difference between resolution and frame rate probably won't know the difference. But and again,
it's going to end up being one of those problems where I think you get I like to call it the Reddit effect, where people on Reddit don't understand that not like your average consumer is not a hyper fan who is frequenting online message boards. Your average fan is not going to notice the difference, and they're going to be happy that they're playing their PS1 games that they used to love.
They just want to play Ape Escape, man. They just want to play Ape Escape and chill out.
I mean, I'm still waiting for the Metal Gear Solid collections to be shown, because we are approaching a year now of silence from Konami after they removed them because they need to renew licensing on archive footage. It's been radio silence since those have been taken away, and I'd like to get those back. Kojima, please. Yeah, so I know it's not your fault, Kojima. I'm sorry, Konami.
So I'm not super critical of this like that. To me, at least of what they've shown so far of what they're going to make available for the kind of the classic legacy games, it's more of a novelty. It's like, oh, that'll be fun to play around for a little bit, like for nostalgia's sake, and for maybe some history.
I'll play some Dino Crisis,
sure, but it's not a big deal to me. So I'm willing to forgive that. But yeah, so now let's go to, so that was the medicine. Let's go to the sugar. It's looking more and more likely that God of War Ragnarok will meet the 2022 release window that it was. I mean, that's been given.
Mr. Balrog himself has been saying it all along.
But we've seen a bunch of stuff. So the coolest bit, in my opinion, was as part of the Global Accessibility Awareness Day, Santa Monica put out a quite lengthy blog post. Not just touting like, oh, we've got 60 plus accessibility options. Isn't that cool? They actually went through and showed a lot of stuff. Everyone probably seen the headline picture of the high contrast mode where Kratos and Boy are, start red and blue. So, for the visually impaired and colorblind,
red and blue,
that they can, easily make distinctions. But there's all sorts of stuff keeping all the things that they did for the PC release, but then iterating on all those things, enhancing, audio cues, which I think is a big one because that's one that is not honestly used enough. But you get to customize those options, your caption sizes, the visual cues, the audio cues, the contrast, all sorts of stuff. It's just, I think, again, that's only the more options like that are the better.
I mean, Sony Santa Monica is a crazy studio. Like whatever they're working on, I give them all of the credit to do.
All right, so yeah,
they do it well.
I guess let me just run through the other two things where it has received a rating in South Korea, which, as far as I know, because the announcement was in Korean, was just that it's rated not for children.
Yep, 18 plus, just like a.
Yep, and then the other one is that some merchandise lines have surfaced in the UK with a September release date. So we were talking about this on stream, but Matt, hit us with your conspiracy brain.
So I've got this whole thing about like leaks aren't leaks; they're marketing, and
I agree.
I think that they're intentionally leaking some of this information to string people along and get the hype going. And I think the merchandise being September, I was saying this on stream, points to game coming in August. Because I think they're going to get everyone excited that like September is going to be the month and they're going to do a state of play. And they're going to be like coming August 16th or whatever, if that's a Friday. I just picked a date, 2022, and like subvert all those expectations and drop it on people quicker. That's just like my gut feeling on it.
Yeah, so maybe that's the more realistic date of like, you know, again, of how they're kind of doing this marketing. But we were talking again on stream last night that the one that we want to see is we want them to release
the
it
outcome we prefer
on November 11th, just as a big fuck you to Xbox.
Take the Starfield date.
Just would be so good.
I don't
Take
know
the
how
Starfield date and
do
just
that.
have your marketing be Kratos in space.
Man,
yeah,
it's like that's such a great opportunity. I don't know why they wouldn't do it. Like, you know, the memes write themselves, folks. You know, and we
I feel like what's going to end up happening is like Nintendo's going to like jump on that date and release like, I think Pokemon comes out around then.
Yeah,
releases like a Pokemon game.
Yeah, that's going to be their next major release for at least for the end of the year. But oh man, it's just like the memes write themselves, folks. We live in a meme culture, largely for the worse. But like, you know, again, that's going to sell units, baby. Like, oh man, I want it to happen. And again, not just to, like, you know, to suck off Sony and all that type of stuff, but just because it would be so funny.
I mean, again, the memes would write themselves.
Oh my god, I can't wait.
Like I could see the date getting announced and Phil Spencer holding a glass of like brandy and like crushing it in his hand, being like, "Get me Todd Howard,
bring me his head."
Like super villain art Phil Spencer.
Of course. All right, so the last bit,
I would just love to see what terrible response Microsoft would come with.
Hey, you can't do that. That's bullying.
Like they would respond and it would be awful.
It's bullying to take our release date for a really cool game that's not ready yet, and we're totally gonna like blow you away when it's done, but like it's not ready yet.
All right, maybe to sour things a little bit, what do we think of the announcement of the God of War, the Horizon of, you know, Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West, and Gran Turismo TV shows in development?
Hate IP splitting.
I mean, I think it is funny that they're splitting it across all the different streaming services. I mean, this one wasn't part of this news because I think it came out earlier. Which is the one that's going to HBO?
Last of Us.
All right. And there's another one too. Is it Twisted?
And that's the one that I have the most
something?
confidence in succeeding in, because HBO knows how to make good content.
Right. Now, I've said from the beginning that Horizon is just begging for an adaptation of some kind, but I hate to see anything go to Netflix these days. You know, it's just Netflix doesn't know how to make shows.
I can't wait till they ruin Aloy.
I mean, it's going to be bad. So, like, I don't have hope for any of these, but who do we want to see cast?
I mean, that was kind of my thought. It's like, I don't see how they're not going to cast the I forget which European country she's from, but it's like there's a European actress whose likeness they took for Aloy. It's like, how do you not just cast her as Aloy? You know, to like piss off the fans the least.
So do you take the voice actor for Kratos?
Yeah,
the man's built like a brick shit house. Actually, no, doesn't he? Allegations.
I want Batista to be Kratos. Like, let's just go wild with
it. Like Dave Batista?
Yeah.
Just marvel it.
Yeah, marvel it. I mean, what else are they going to do? They're going to marvel it.
I mean, I don't want Kratos to be marveled. I want Kratos to be brutal. I want him to be, if we're going to give him anything,
Mark
I want
Strong,
him to be the
a
Amazon
juiced up
Invincible.
Mark Strong.
I want to be Invincible from Amazon, where he's just shredding people.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So if they have Christopher Judge, the voice actor of Kratos, play Kratos, I can only imagine the discourse there because having a black man, reprise his own role, but in a character that is not portrayed as black. They're going, people are going to flip the fuck out. It's like, what are they doing? It's just, woke nonsense, but like, let alone he embodies the character, probably better than anybody else could. And, I think that would be a great choice. I don't see why,
that would be cool.
Again, because as Matt said, he is built like a brick shit house. So, perfect there. And it's like, it's an older kind of rugged Kratos,
grizzled.
So like, he's not in his, he was a Stargate.
I can't wait till we have Kratos crack in time where he time travels back and fights younger Kratos.
And yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely baffled though by the Gran Turismo TV show. Like, what the fuck is that going to be?
No idea.
There's going to be 0 characters in it whatsoever. It's just going to be people in racing helmets just looking at each other with subtitles.
Absolutely. Sounds
cars will talk.
Yeah, sounds. I mean, yeah. Let's just get live action Cars cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to beat Lightning McQueen at one point. We're going to see Lightning McQueen downtrodden in season 2 when he's committed to heroin and laced racing fuel because he lost the big cup.
The piston cup, man.
The piston cup.
It gets us all eventually. All right. So we're getting about that time. We did have a few things we had here just in case we got to it. I guess let's skip. I mean, it's other than mentioning that the Take-Two buyout of mobile company Zynga went through. That was, up until Activision, the biggest video game purchase of all time. That, thanks to the Activision stuff, completely flew under the radar.
Yeah, no way that was gonna get challenged.
That maybe had some speculation when it was first announced, but then a week later when Activision, it's a complete order of magnitude different in the purchase size. There was I never saw anything, no piece whatsoever about what that would look like or any challenging from regulators or anything like that. So no surprises there.
No, yeah, not exactly, not a surprise.
But I do think that because, if anything, though, with how seamless that acquisition went through, I think that lends more credence to that. Again, the Activision deal will go through as well. We've always been, said that that's going to be the case, but there's been plenty of kind of counter speculation of late that it's facing more intense criticism or more intense scrutiny by regulators and all this stuff, but I don't buy it.
No, I don't buy that either.
And then the other two things were other either purchase or investment or kind of M&A, merger and acquisition stuff. It's the EA has been in the news. They're taking the Ubisoft route. It's like, ooh, I hope somebody doesn't buy us. Just ooh. But yeah, it's like they're talking about all the shit with there was talks of merging with NBC Universal that fell through over price. They're talking with Disney and Apple, and I really hope they don't get bought by either of those two. But I think it again would be worse if it's. I mean, I honestly can't say what would be worse, Disney or Apple or Facebook. Honestly, you don't know which of those would be worse. Disney just owns culture at this point.
Disney owning it would be worse
than Apple.
Disney owning that much potential IP is dangerous. Sure. Apple would be next worst, but that's just because they would gate it into their ecosystem and never let anyone else touch it.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, yeah, but so the one
Facebook would just fumble it.
Yeah,
the would fuck it up.
The only so let's root for that one then, I guess.
Yeah.
We love to pray for EA's downfall here.
Yeah.
But yeah, the one interesting bit I saw from this was these rumblings are going around that it was the interest of primarily the tech companies in EA is what spurred the Microsoft Activision deal. Is that they wanted to make this groundbreaking purchase before some tech vulture swooped in and got their claws into their talons, that is, I don't want to mix metaphors, into the their beaks into the industry, because they are, Amazon's already doing that. Facebook is trying to as well. They're encroaching in the industry. So, yeah, sure, Microsoft is a tech company as well, but they're it's kind of its own. It is different in that regard, just because of how fundamentally ingrained Xbox is in that ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, I found that interesting. And then I know this was the story you were interested in, Andrew. The latest purchase by the Saudi Family Public Investment Fund, taking up 5% of Nintendo, which I think makes them like the second biggest stockholder in
I think it was the second biggest. It's definitely top 3. I just think that's an interesting development, because we're hearing these companies that are for sale, and the Saudi Public Wealth Fund has a lot of money. So
they're starting to diversify.
They need to get off that sweet oil, man.
Need to get off the oil. So it's just, I think it's interesting. Maybe they're going to emerge as a buyer for someone like Ubisoft or EA.
I said this before. They bought
and that would be
they have a 96% share of was it Neo Geo?
I think they definitely own
SNK.
some.
SNK, that's it.
They effectively own all of SNK.
Yeah,
it's like a 96% stake in SNK.
But yeah, they also have 5% in Capcom and Nexon, which is a South Korean company that trades in Tokyo. $3 billion in EA, Activision, and Take-Two. I think that $3 billion is spread across those 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're making those moves, and it's just like I had to appreciate, it's like the Nintendo spokespeople were really like, basically like you could tell they were not happy about it, but it's like they can't do anything. They can't do anything about it.
Nope.
Don't we love a capitalism, folks? But it's like they're like yeah, this is unsavory, but to say it most kindly, a totalitarian regime that is truly one of the the largest state funders of global terror throughout the world, is coming into our family friendly video game company.
Yeah. And that's what it's like. What if they buy Ubisoft? What if they buy Ubisoft?
I can't wait for the Burkini DLC for Mario Kart 8.
Man. So that's a nice little note to end it on. We'll see where
episode title Burkini for Mario Kart 8.
They say we'll see where one of the world leading human rights abusers end up in our lovely hobby here.
Right.
Sure it's only going to be for the better.
Just a happy little accident. Just a happy little.
All right, guys. I think we maybe went a little bit long today. I did not actually.
Yeah, it's fine. It was a good episode.
Take point of where we actually started, but I think this was good. Plug time. Be sure to check us out on Twitch at campaign_comrades. We are doing our best to stream as regularly as possible. We've got some scheduling issues as of late, but we're trying to do our best there. Come check us out. Come give us a follow. Helps us out a lot. Follow us on Twitter at CamComPod. Give us only 5-star reviews on iTunes and wherever they else do reviews. I think iTunes is the main one, but it helps a lot. If you like what you hear, come stop by.
Send your complaints to Matt's Twitter.
Yes.
At Matt Wash, he responds to DMs.
Yeah, it's not an infinite black hole where time. But we will see you next time.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.